here's what I have on the Tulsa 7, aka the Phillips siblings, or what used to be known as and associated. So it all starts December 26th, early in the morning, 1990, when Florida Phillips and her boyfriend Otis D. Brewer are in an apartment fire inside their apartment. Now it starts in the kitchen while they're asleep upstairs. I've heard everything from gas leak to arson to everything crazy, but I'm assuming not arson since the fire department doesn't have the records anymore, and typically they hold those longer. So, as you can see up here, here's some details on it. Feel free to pause and check it out. But Florida Phillips is the mother of the 5 missing Phillips siblings. So, it all starts with her and her boyfriend being in this house fire, and they are transported to the hospital, and boom. Florida and Otis both succumb to their injuries within a day of each other. Florida on the 6th, Otis on the 7th. I suppose it just happens. So, let's fast forward a couple days after Florida and her boyfriend are unalive due to their injuries. And we're going to talk about her daughter, her 25-year-old daughter, Tomarion Phillips. She was married to a man that's being known as Quincy Phillips all over the internet. He has multiple aliases. I'm not sure of his true name. So this was her last known location. From my understanding, she was last seen at home. However, I'm not sure who actually ended up reporting her missing in 2012. But she was supposedly last seen at home, and if this is the correct home address, then one of these 2 buildings that I'm showing here was probably where they were living. If not, this is some other probably erroneous address she was given. Really known by Cookie, that was like her nickname. I will say that her husband is the main public person of interest in this case. So she was last seen wearing an all-black outfit, probably because she was mourning her mother. And she was there when her children went to school. By the time they returned home from school, she was gone, according to a close family source. And that was somewhere probably the late 2nd week of January. So also, just to give you a little bit of background, Tomarion and Quincy had their first baby together when Tomarion was 15, even though he was in his mid-20s. So that was not this baby that's listed here. This is their 2nd child together after she was of age of consent, which was 16 at the time in Tulsa. So I'm just going to kind of move my head here so y'all can see. But as you see there, he goes by Jacquees Phillips. It's literally any old name that kind of goes with his name, I guess. But yeah, that's a little bit of backstory on them. They've been together for a while, 10 years at the time of her being missing, and it was kind of creepy. Alright, so here's the deal about Wanda. This was her last police interaction with Tulsa Police Department, which was in April of 1991. So it seems like around that time, she went missing from where she was staying. So she was living with a boyfriend and his mother and a few other community members, unclear how they were related. And according to a family source of the boyfriend's, one day she left the house and never came back. Reportedly, they were doing some things that maybe they shouldn't have been doing, and it wasn't that uncommon for one of them to leave the house and maybe not return for a night. But after she never came back, obviously, he went searching for her. So a key detail here is these municipal charges. Unfortunately, they don't have any of those records due to retention policies. So, can't tell when she bailed. Alright, so according to the statement of a close family member, this right here is Wanda. So there is some confusion on which picture is which female sibling. So I am probably going to kind of haze over directly pointing them out unless I have some sort of like contemporary confirmed statement like we have here. So Wanda, she was into some things that landed her in contact with the police a lot. So it definitely speaks to something that she didn't have any interaction with them after April of 1991. So she was definitely involved in a shooting where she was charged in the late 80s, and I've been able to confirm that with court documents and contemporary statements. So, you know, I'm not really sure if that is any way related to her being missing as much as it is her relation to everybody else. According to Wanda's missing persons report, it was filed by a detective in 2025, this is the area where she was last ultimately seen. So I can say for 100% certainty that this is Clinton Barry Blakely. He was a good friend of the family, a really good friend of Donald Phillips, one of the missing siblings, and they were together a lot. It seems, though, that they were never charged together, but they were definitely together a lot. And that's coming from, again, contemporary sources. So it is also reported that he was dating one of the Phillips sisters. I do know which one, but it's not super relevant at this point. So I will say it would definitely speak to motive for someone. However, in my opinion, there are multiple persons of interest in this case, but we'll get to that. So this is Clinton's last police report with Tulsa Police Department. and I cannot find any evidence that he ever left police custody. One can reasonably assume that he did. The contemporary sources that I've been speaking with are interested in who may have bailed him out. So if you happen to know this information, please feel free to share. But it's really kind of impossible to find at this point because only one of these are at the state level. However, I am in contact with the county clerk, and I should be getting records back from them anytime in the next couple of days. So hopefully that might show us who at least signed for his bail bondsman or something like that. But sometime within that first week of September, his grandmother was attempting to report him missing. And she was ultimately declined the availability to even be able to do that because she wasn't his parents. But yet, now, you see there where the next of kin is kind of redacted there. Well, on the report prior to that, it wasn't. And it actively listed his grandparents as his next of kin and showed them as living at the same street address. So it's honestly a little BS that they weren't allowed to make a missing persons report on him. So to this day, as of when I received my last records, which was literally yesterday, he doesn't have a missing persons report. So this is a nameless profile that's available on Paula. I really can't even show a picture because, again, I'm not really sure which picture is actually hers. She was 26 years old when she went missing. She had 4 kids, if I'm recalling correctly. And her children were with their father in a different section of Oklahoma on a visit for a little over a week during the time period that she went missing. Now, according to what Donald told police, she left from her house. Okay, so this is where Paula was last seen, her house. She left out, according to Donald, saying she was going to the store. Remember, her kids are with their dad, and when they come back, their dad comes to drop them off, she's not there. They go in the house, everything's normal. The neighbors say she's off with Donald. At this point, Donald's gone too. So to clarify timeline a little bit here, she left the house October 3rd at 7 p.m. Donald calls or contacts police sometime on October 7th and lets them know that his sister Paula is missing. I'm not really sure why he doesn't mention anything about Tomarion or Wanda. But the police, they go back out looking him, trying to find him to discuss his sister on the 10th. And they can't find him. And he's also never seen again. So Londa is where it really gets tricky. So we're all the way into November of 1992, despite what this report says. You can read below and they'll explain. But apparently the police, for some reason, thought her and Wanda, her twin sister, were the same person, despite the fact that Wanda was constantly in trouble and Londa has no apparent record. But I guess maybe that's why they thought they were the same person, because they hardly had any interaction with Londa. But either way, the person listed here, the name's going to be kind of redacted, is her boyfriend, presumptively, because as the story goes, her boyfriend reported her missing while she was going to see a relative. What relative, I'm really not sure. But the address that she was reported missing from, that's where it gets interesting. Okay, so this is the address that Londa was reportedly last seen at. So we're just going to kind of take a trip down memory lane here about how it has changed just since 2007. So there we go. That is what the property looked like in 2007. So it's presumable that based on the neighborhood and the area, that it looked very much like this whenever Londa was last seen there. It is unclear if the location they put was her home or where she was supposed to be going, like a relative's place. But the reason it gets really interesting is because this is also a known home for Tomarion, or Cookie, and also Quincy Momodu. So, and the reason that's really interesting is Tomarion had been long gone for almost 2 years at this point. So the only person she could have been going to see at that location really would have been Quincy. So we've already been kind of time jumping, so we're going to go on forward to 2009. So this is Althedia Vaught, and according to a family source of hers, she is actually like a second or third cousin of the Phillips siblings. Now, the source broke it down to me how it works, but I'm going to kind of keep that private for privacy reasons. So she basically walked out of the house in January 2009. It's around 11:30 at night. She only got her phone with her, car keys, whatever, leaves her purse. She's in her pajamas. Ultimately, she never returns home. They found her car under suspicious circumstances in a hospital parking garage. It was followed in by a white truck. It didn't leave. The white truck did. And she was a known associate and literally next door neighbor of Quincy Momodu's. So I'm definitely out of TikTok time. I'm going to save the rest for part 2. We're going to go over the potential persons of interest that are outside of Quincy and how they might also be related to all of the Tulsa 7. So if you want to see that, give me a follow. Come back in a couple days and I'll have it up. Thanks.